Here in Devon, in the tranquil Tamar Valley, is a port that once bustled with industry. Overground, farmers supplied Britain's growing towns and cities with fresh produce.
Daffodils set for London.
While underground, miners extracted copper and precious minerals.
Firing!
Archaeologists Alex Langlands and Peter Ginn and historian Ruth Goodman are living the lives of Edwardian farmers for a full calendar year.
Look at that one there. It's so sweet.
They're getting to grips with the rural industries that once brought wealth to Devon.
Oh wow, we got something.
It's a good one.
Last month, the team ventured into the county's famous dairy trade.
Well, it is different, isn't it?
Well, we like it.
Planted new crops in their arable field and cashed in on the valley's booming tourist industry. Now it's June, a time when farmers in the valley traditionally took their sheep onto Dartmoor for summer grazing.
Here! Come, come!
Here the team will explore an ancient landscape.
I have to say, on a day like today, this is one of the best jobs I've come across.
Learn how to profit from Devon's once booming wool industry.
I'm just finding this really nerve-wracking, actually.
And old friends arrive on holiday.
Oh, my goodness, you know how to arrive in style.
In the Tamar Valley, the arrival of summer brought new challenges for Edwardian farmers. June was the month when they could profit from one of Devon's traditional agricultural industries, wool. But this was also the time when farmers had to make use of any dry weather to harvest winter feed for their livestock.
Traditionally, hay would have been made with all of this lovely succulent grass. But we're going to try for something different this year. Something new and radical in the Edwardian age.
With the increasing use of science in Edwardian agriculture, the government of the day advised farmers to make silage, a method of starving the freshly cut grass of oxygen. This way, the green and succulent grass is preserved while still retaining vital nutrients.
Now, we always associate silage with very, very modern farming, polythene-wrapped bales in the field and polythene clamping the silage in the farmyard. But in fact, actually, it says here, this was first widely adopted in the year 1888. So the Board of Agriculture and Fisheries are actively promoting silage during the Edwardian period simply because it has got such good nutritional value and succulence for your herd and your sheep throughout the winter months.
To make silage, the team must gather in all the cut grass before it begins to dry in the field.
Never thought I'd find myself in a field in June trying to stop grass drying out.
Yeah. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. See, it's nice and green. It's that smell of freshly cut, freshly mown lawns.
Well, it's that smell of fermentation, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what we're looking for.
To preserve the fresh grass, Alex and Peter will need to build an airtight container known as a clamp.
The whole idea of the clamp is essentially to prevent the oxygen from getting to this organic material, because if it's just left out in the open, this material would actually start to rot down. And what these straw mats will do is they'll just stop the soil that we lay on top to ultimately seal the clamp from getting into the grass, because if it does that, it creates the kind of conditions that Listeria bacteria will thrive in. But that's it. That is the roof on. Are you happy with that?
I'm happy with that. That's the easy bit.
That's the easy bit, yeah. Shifting the earth is going to be the hard bit. Yeah.
To prevent oxygen getting to the grass, Alex and Peter now have to seal the clamp with earth. Unopened, the silage should remain edible for several years.
Well, there we go. Earth on, oxygen out, silage made.
Yeah, and it should keep the sheep and the cattle here fed throughout the winter, so yeah, pleased to get this one out of the way.
On the Edwardian Farm, the team are reaping the benefits of the Tamar Valley's mild climate. Their oat and potato crops are thriving, looking set for a bumper harvest later in the summer.
Super, super crop.
But the warm weather isn't so welcome for the farm's flock of ewes.
Now the sun's come out, the flies have come out.
Yeah. Sheep suffer particularly from something called blowfly. They get in amongst the back end of those sheep. The larvae can actually start eating into the flesh of the sheep. It not only destroys the fleece, but of course the animal itself is severely traumatised, stops eating.
Well, it can kill the sheep.
In the worst case scenario, it can kill them.
To try and escape the flies in the warm and humid valley, Alex and Peter have taken their sheep onto the highest grounds of the farm. But with a huge expanse of open moorland nearby, Edwardian farmers traditionally drove their flocks onto Dartmoor.
It's fascinating, isn't it, though, the whole situation with the seasonal summer grazing of Dartmoor. It'd be a fantastic thing to go and explore, wouldn't it?
Rising up to over 2,000 feet above sea level and covering 368 square miles, the vast barren moorlands are a stark contrast to Devon's green and verdant valleys.
Dartmoor is a wilderness. I mean, you've got granite tors sticking out of mossy, peaty bogs, and the farming that goes on there is being sculpted by the landscape itself.
Dartmoor was once a mighty forest. Over the past 5,000 years, farmers have worked the land to create pastures for livestock.
Dartmoor, for me, is a fantastic, romantic landscape. To really engage with the farming of Dartmoor as it would have been 100 years ago, it's just going to be unique.
Would you mind keeping the farm ticking over?
Yeah, of course.
The annual pilgrimage of sheep farmers to the moor meant that women were often left to look after the farms.
Right, here we go.
Now, Ruth, whilst there's no signs of blight on the potatoes yet, a preemptive spray is in order.
You've not used this before, have you?
No, but, you know.
For farms to prosper, traditionally male or female tasks were often interchangeable.
If it hadn't happened all the time, can you imagine what would have occurred for World War I? Britain would have fallen apart. It was only because actually women had been doing bits and bobs quietly of pretty much everything, albeit in odd situations, that there was a skill base there, so that when the men gone, life can go on.
For Alex and Peter's Dartmoor expedition, Ruth's rustling up some supplies, including biscuits and a popular drink of the time, mahogany.
We need the zest and the juice of 1 lemon, and as much rum and brandy as you can force in a bottle, and a good dollop of sugar to sweeten it. So when you're, you know, up on the moors, you can take some of the mahogany, put it into a cup and top it up with boiling water, and you've got yourself a really good sort of hot toddy thing. Come. Oh, delicious.
Well, there you go then. Don't starve.
OK.
I'll see you in a couple of days.
Yes.
Have fun. See ya.
See ya.
See you then.
Ruth will join Alex and Peter on the moor in a few days' time.
So you're looking forward to getting up on the moor then, Peter?
I love Dartmoor.
It's only 5 miles from the farm at Morwellham Quay to Dartmoor.
So we're nearly there yet?
I've got my eyes on that mahogany wine.
Alex and Peter are travelling to a traditional farmstead on the lower region of the moor that's witnessed centuries of Dartmoor farming.
This is why I come to Dartmoor.
This is fascinating, isn't it? It's fantastic. Original Dartmoor farm. Wow.
This is rare. A farm that has seen generation upon generation of Dartmoor farmer. You can see all the different occupation levels here, can't you?
You can look all these different phases of building. You'd have a stable up the end.
Yeah.
That would be your living quarters. We're missing the chimneys. And then the shippen, which is the cattle byre, would be down here. And they've even got the bracken, look. The bracken which they would have used for bedding. Look at some of those stones there in that doorway. That doorway will be 500 years old. Wow. Wow, look at that.
That cider press is huge. With your apple loft,
Apple
your
loft,
scratter
yeah.
box, your horse gin, your press.
Well, this is as it would have been 100 years ago. It's amazing.
And also loads of barrels of vintage cider. Result.
Amazing.
The farm belongs to Colin Pearce, a sheep farmer who believes passionately in preserving the traditions of the moor.
These are the sheep, one of England's oldest breeds of sheep.
Right.
Colin farms the white-faced Dartmoor, the native breed of sheep whose long wool fleeces once played a vital role in the economy of the moor.
Well, this country, it's easy to forget that we built a nation on the wealth generated from the wool trade.
We did. Churches and bridges, wonderful names come up like Bridge on Wool, and it was the profits of wool, the culture, the economy, the prosperity, and the wool, of course, paid the rent. Right, for these little farms. This was a wonderful day when you came to shear because you waited 12 months for this fleece to mature.
Well, we look forward to helping out. Let's see if we can't throw a bit of fun into the bargain.
By fun, do you mean competition?
Yeah, I think so.
I have surprisingly weak forearms, despite what people say, so I wouldn't mind being paired with the slightly better shearer.
To teach Alex and Peter the craft of hand shearing, Colin has called in champion Devon blade shearer George Mudge and his son Andrew.
I think that it tends to run in families. I mean, my father was a good shearer and all these brothers.
Yeah.
And of course now Andrew's good at it as well.
We go then, there she is.
Travelling from farm to farm, an Edwardian blade shearer would have hoped to remove a fleece in less than 5 minutes.
We must be very careful,
Right.
you know, not to cut them.
You've got to really know the contours of a sheep's body then.
Absolutely. You know, you've got a pair of blades here which are 6 inches long.
Take your finger off.
Yeah, you could take your finger off quite easily.
And she's all right with this? She's not too traumatised by it?
No, not at all. And I mean, generally speaking, of course, when the weather's hot, they're really glad to get it off.
Right. So the way you're shearing here is essentially so that the fleece all comes off in one piece.
It's a bit like when you're shaving, you know, you have to keep the old skin tight.
That's right, you have to sort of draw your face, don't
That's
you?
it.
To get the razor over it.
Yeah, and the other thing that you should do when you're shearing, you should avoid, as near as possible, skin cuts and second cuts of the wool.
Are hand shears still in use much around the world?
In countries like South Africa, still about 65% of the sheep are shorn with the blades, the best blade shearers in the world. And they, like shearers everywhere, get paid on a headage basis. So the more they shear, the more they earn. And, you know, wherever people are shearing in the world, nobody wants to be the slowest. That's it.
There she goes. Off she goes, a different animal, actually, but...
It looks half the size,
virtually unrecognisable.
Yeah.
So that whole process took us, what, 5 minutes?
Probably something like that, I suppose, yeah.
Right, so how many do you think you could do in a day?
Well, a good shearer with the hand shears would do probably about 50 of these, I suppose.
Right.
I think 50 would be quite enough.
I think 5 would be right.
It's like a barber shop, isn't it? They're all lining up.